Perfect.
Hey everybody.
Hey guys, what's up? How's it going?
Hi, Anand.
All
Hi,
good.
Shantanu. Hi, Gaurav.
Hey Rahul.
Yes.
Hey Gaurav. Hey Shantanu. Welcome to week 3 of Unlabel from EDAO. Now, what are we talking about? NFTs, is it? Something to do with NFTs, I think.
Absolutely. NFTs and Web3.
So, an art at the heart of all of this. So, welcome, guys. We had a couple of great weeks, awesome conversations over the past 2 weeks. And in spite of me being on the panel, which is all down to the artists that were part of the panel. So, I'm looking forward to a great chat now as well. The best way I feel to approach conversations with artists is with an empty mind, because any sort of background you bring to the table is instantly thrown out the window. Any preconceived notions about art, about yourself, about the artist, they don't give a shit. So most likely they're going to append it with something they created or something they're about to say or the way they're thinking. So really excited to have you guys on board. A round of really quick intros would be nice. Rahul, would you like to do the honors first?
Sure. So I'm Rahul Singh Manjral. I'm the co-founder and editor for the Curator Mag, and we are basically an online platform and an in-print magazine that works towards creating more discourse about visual arts and music, so that everyone from someone who's just learning about the arts to people who are seasoned veterans and collectors and people who just want to gain more information can have one place to come to and be part of the discourse.
Amazing. That was like a pitch perfect boilerplate. Nice.
Thank you.
Got to know you. Thanks, man. I'm Anand. I'm the co-founder and CEO of EDAO. EDAO is a gentle barge that transports fans and people and communities and creators from and to Web 2 and Web 3, in between these two. That's our place. Our jam is right between Web 2 and Web 3, and we ferry people across. That's my job. And the most pleasurable part of what I do is interactions like these, because my journey within the NFT space was kicked off and sort of sparkled because of my interactions with artists. And I'd love to keep continuing that. So until you guys kick me out. So if I may, I have something for Shantanu and Gaurav. Let me see if I get this right, guys. Shantanu, he's from the state of Assam. He's a multi-disciplinary autodidact visual artist based in Mumbai. He's the first ever Red Bull World Doodle Art Champion, if I recollect right, and he's one of the pioneers of the NFT revolution in India, which is still very much underway. Gaurav, who Shantanu is collaborating with, is a 2D animator and director with a formal education from NID Ahmedabad. And over the years, Wakankar has translated his love for theater, and that's something I'd love to dig into character animation and the extreme performances that have come to be there. Did I get that right, guys?
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
No, I'm
Great
gonna stop.
intros, great intros, Anand.
No, all courtesy Nupur, who's the lady behind all of this. Okay, I'm going to throw it to the artist now. Shantanu, obviously, like the intro said, you're one of the pioneers of the NFT space in India. I know why I got into the space. I was sort of pulled in, kicking and screaming by a friend of mine. What got you into NFTs?
Well, what got me into NFTs? Well, I think it's a I like gaming. I really like gaming. I like buying digital assets and games and video games. So, like even before this all this NFT thing blew up, I was always into like cryptocurrency and actually trading online, buying new skins, buying new like mods and all those stuff. And so I was kind of into it, but then I was trying to make my character unique in whatever online gaming that I'm in. So I got introduced to NFTs through Axie Infinity, and it was one of the early onboarders of like first. I think it's one of the first ever NFT games like that big. And so I was already on Axie. I was playing some like just like that. I thought I'd just get introduced to how this works, and so I think that's the starting point when I first heard about NFT or got into anything which was closely related to NFTs. But I never thought it will translate to art. And then forward to the recent times where like suddenly NFT became like, with these guys are making this $1 million, millions and millions of dollars here and there. So I'm like, okay, I've already been doing this. Why don't I art? So I don't. I'm not a rocket science figure that out that I can like combine these two and let's go into it. So that was my first introduction to NFT and how I started off. And then Wazirex launched in India and they were looking for artists. So they approached me, spotlight artists. So that's when I said, okay, if I'm gonna do this, I better do this with like a proper like backing from the platform, because by the time when when NFTs have blown up and we're getting to know more about it, there are already so many platforms with so many artists, and and it was kind of like a very chaotic situation. Like it was easier for for an artist, especially an artist from India, to be lost in the chatter and the crowd because it was mostly Western centric, to be specific. So then I thought, okay, I need to take advantage of me being from this country and actually a platform backing you and promoting your NFT in their space. So I was waiting for that moment. And then Wazirex came on board. They're like, we want to promote you, want to get you on board as one of the spotlight artists and all, and we'll market it, we'll promote it and all. I'm like, yeah, sure, but then I want this to be a collaborative effort. So I collaborated with Ritviz on the first NFT drop, and that's when I started my NFT journey, like into minting and understanding the technology and whatnot. Because I wanted to actually for other people to also understand how this works. Yeah, and that's why I started doing a lot of live sessions and a lot of kind of like informal workshops where I talked about how to mint NFTs, how to actually buy, sell, and trade.
Amazing, man. It's surprising. It's a very fascinating origin story, right? Because I don't know a lot of artist gamers, right? I mean, there are a lot of gamers. There's a bunch of artists who come in like purely through their art or through a network of artists and stuff. But you got in like a gamer, and then you sort of pivoted or reoriented it towards your art. It's fascinating.
I
Rahul,
mean,
how long have you known? Oh, sorry, Shant, you were saying something.
sorry to interrupt you. Please continue.
Oh, no. How long have you known of Shantanu, and how long have you known Shantanu, Rahul?
So actually, this is the first time Shantanu and I are communicating in person. We've generally always spoken through the Curator Mac platform, and I've actually known of his work since 2015 or 16, I'd say. Right around that time when So around that time was when I was dropping out of college, out of engineering, and I was sort of, moving into trying to do and pursue landscape photography full time. And it was around then that, I started expanding the kind of art that I was consuming, and also, sort of to get to know who are the pioneers in the visual arts field in India. So Shantanu was definitely one of them because of the Red Bull doodle in 2014, which he won. So that's sort of how, and I've always been a Red Bull fan because I'm heavily into the outdoors, be it hiking, camping, and all of those activities. So through there, I got to know about Shantanu and his work, and then it's been like that ever since, and everyone knows him now. So
It's nice to know you also drop out. Like I'm also an engineering dropout. So
yeah. You were in mechanical, and I was in computer science. So yeah.
Gaurav, did you at least complete your education, or are you among these guys?
I did. Luckily, I was, I guess, smart enough and I chose animation very early.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so luckily it worked out because it's not always that when you're a kid you can say I want to be an astronaut, I want to be an animator and stuff, and you later find out that this job is much tougher. Like it looks cool from the outside, doesn't mean you necessarily will like it. But luckily for me, I somehow fell in the right path. Things started, happening in the correct way, and I am where I am because everything fell in the right place. I think NID was a big part of creating that path, and along the way the people I met, and in general the passion, animation and everything. Yeah, so I completed my education and I've been on this one.
Good for you, man.
Whatever. Yeah.
Good for you, because
I always wanted
people,
to be,
you
wanted to study in NID, but unfortunately I was not.
No, so I mean, I was always great at coding, and tech and computers and all of that was always a part, of a key interest of mine. Growing up, I remember building one of my first PCs like in class 9 or 10, like when we had this old PC that had to be upgraded to a dual core and everything. So I was at the store with the guy, learning how to swap the processor and all of that. But at some point, I'm also a product of Fiji, Lucknow. So yeah, you can add Fiji to that. So at some point during that Fiji period, I started questioning everything, and it was like, is this all there is to life? Like, is this the path where you get the job and you're working and then whatever. So photography was always a part of my life, and traveling was definitely a very big part of my life because my father was in the merchant navy. So I grew up sailing until I was in class 4 with him. So that is what led to landscapes. But yeah, I would have definitely made the jump to a photography school if I could have. But parents didn't allow, of course. So.
There's one more thing, right? The biggest thing about the NFT space, at least for me, is that it essentially makes you leave all your previous, whether it's baggage, whether it's positive or negative, all of the accomplishments that you have behind. Essentially, it's a clean slate, right? What you put out there is what people respond to. It's like a complete clean slate, which is scary and also pretty exciting. It can work both ways. Gaurav, you said something interesting. You said, I'm happy with where I am right now. Where do you think you are right now? How do you see the NFT space?
Oh, so about NFT space, it's when a few years ago when it had a big boom in the entire artist community. People who were early on in the Web 2 or whichever, like the crypto space, and that's slowly some of the artists had blown up. And in general, every artist at that point considered moving into this space early on because it felt so lucrative, but also such an unknown space. And I haven't taken that step yet because Shantanu, messaged me, got me in touch with you guys, and I felt that was the right time. Just like he felt comfortable going with a platform because we're getting into an unknown space. I now feel like I'm slowly getting into this space as we speak. So for me, it's a whole new journey. I've been hearing bits and pieces from everywhere, but I'm still a noob in the entire NFT and crypto and Web 2 and 3 space. But I feel confident that with Santanu, I'll slowly start understanding and learning things. But the thing is, artists, being an artist, like a freelancer, we are always very cautious about what we are getting into in terms of business, because in general, any business could be risky. You never know what you're getting into, and then it might be difficult to get out of, or the stakes are too high and you're under stress, and we're always trying to get away from stress. We're just trying to create something without any stress and with full freedom and from what we want to do finally. That's why I think there is that hesitance of going in alone and rather going together. So I guess that's something like, making a safe environment or a protective, I have someone to look after, that kind of thing going on.
Amazing. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, and that's kind of exactly what Unlabel wants to be, that safe environment for artists that come in. But now, for your benefit and for the benefit of all of the artists that are listening to this, Shantanu and Rahul, can you give us like a crash course on what NFTs are? Not like a super tech kind of level, but specifically from your perspective, you as an artist, Shantanu, and Rahul, you as a raconteur of the space.
So Rahul, you want to start with this?
No, I think you should take the lead because you're the one with Wasirex, bro.
No, right now I'm So I think NFTs, to put it simply, like I keep using this analogy where I put in like two worlds. One is digital, one is real. Like now, if you were to go and buy, suppose, a painting from a gallery, you'd go and you'd spend money like in cash, which is called the normal cash or fiat cash or rupees. And now, if you want to do the same thing digitally, and now galleries will also provide you certificates. They'll provide you contract, mode of payments, and all those things. Like you'll receive your artwork after this many days. There's a certificate of authentication, and this signed by the artist themselves. So basically, that's how the real world functions. Like when it comes to artists and galleries, a collector goes to a gallery, or the artist which they like, go to them, they buy the piece, they get a certificate of authentication, they do the transaction using money. Now we take the digital world where the platforms are the galleries. Like, for example, Rarible, like where Ida is doing most of the, like, I think we're putting it up on Rarible, right? So Rarible is like a gallery where we all are artists are putting up our work or minting our work. And then a collector goes to the platform, which is synonymous to a gallery in real life. And then he or she or they spend cryptocurrency, which is equivalent to a real world currency, but it's digital. So you use those cryptocurrencies to basically procure or buy that art piece, and you get the authentication done through the blockchain. Basically, that's the certificate, the smart contracts, the authentication, the whole process of you buying and the transfer is a certification that you are owner of this art piece. And similarly, that art piece in real life can be a canvas piece or any medium. Here, it's a digital piece. Those are NFT, those are analog or real life art pieces. I think that's the simplest way to explain what NFTs are. You're just getting it, and then you have a proper account and traceability of the NFTs that you're buying from the platform, because because it's like a account. Go to a bank, moment you want a ledger of your transfers that you have, you get a whole history of your transactions with the amount of spend, the money that you've transferred to other people or you've gotten from other people. It's exactly the same. The moment you buy an NFT, it comes to your wallet. There's the code or the whole let's not get into the technical thing, but there's a chain of ledger which you get with the procurement of the NFT and the transfer details. So basically, you can say it's a transfer of money or asset from one account to the other account, be it the platform or the artist's account, to your account. And now you become the owner of it. And also non-fungible means that it's unique. Like every art piece will have a unique code or hexa code attached with the artwork, which no other artwork will have. So that's the way of like authenticating your art piece, because there's traceability, you have unique code to your art piece or the digital asset that you have bought, and you can actually follow, and everything is there on the platform and on the blockchain basically, or the bank. Blockchain can be considered.
Yeah.
Rahul, an alternative version?
So yeah, I think Shantanu covered it in the best way possible. But like, if you were to draw a comparison to it, when we talk about the digital world and the physical world, so just like you probably spend money to acquire an asset that appreciates or might depreciate if your luck is bad. So let's say you pay money and buy a bar of gold. Now consider that bar of gold to be an NFT, which you buy with cryptocurrency, and then you've basically got an asset, which is like gold is an asset. So similarly, you're able to utilize your cryptocurrency to purchase various assets that happen to be various kinds of artworks, be it stills, motions, audio based, whatever. And the biggest aspect of doing this is, of course, the whole decentralization and the creator to consumer interaction. That's a very direct bridge. There's no mediators as such, except for the marketplace or the platform through which the transaction is being facilitated. And at the end of the day, it's the transparency and it's the ability of the creator to constantly be able to monitor the movement or the change of ownership or the transference of rights for a particular piece of work that you've created, which may not be possible in the real world if you end up meeting some dubious people in the industry, or transparency is not an ethic that some might believe in. So it helps blur those lines while definitely give more clarity on the creator to consumer front and create that direct interaction.
Perfect. I'm going to steal from both of you, and here's my definition. Right? This is for artists specifically. What can they see when they look at NFTs? Right? For me, NFTs represent a new medium, a new and global marketplace, and an entirely new community of artists, which is very, very difficult to find. Let's talk about the medium first. The medium is it is digital, absolutely, but it is also specific. It's like a layer on top of the internet, where your art, once it's an NFT, can be in a format which cannot exist out in the real world, which cannot exist anywhere else in the world. So it is a new medium of expression. The second, a new marketplace. Instantly, you are exposed to a global audience. So the NFT space, it has attracted people from all over the world in a way that is not possible. Everybody is on the internet, sure, but they're all in their little bubbles. But in the NFT space, they all have left their bubbles to come and look at your art. That is precious. That is new. It's a new marketplace. It's a new street, which is why people like me, people like Shantanu, people like Gaurav can actually stand out in a crowd, because we are new, because we bring some special secret sauce which doesn't exist. Where we come from, we're not that unique, right? In that new space, in that new global marketplace, we stand out, we shine brighter because we bring something that doesn't exist yet. And the third most important thing for an artist when they enter the NFT space is community. Just like Gaurav found Shantanu, or the other way around, you instantly connect to a community of other artists who equip you not just with the knowledge of how to mint an NFT or how to do this stuff, but also a whole host of tools to help you make art and sort of elevate it beyond what you've been creating so far for the last 7 odd years, right? That's the whole point of this collaboration. And it's very hard to collaborate in the physical space, but in the digital sense, even in the metaverse, that instantly changes. I've known of artists who start off on a sketch pad, on a physical sketch pad, and then it becomes digital, it becomes an NFT, and they collaborate in weird and wonderful ways, which is what we're seeing with Gaurav and Shantanu. This is, to me, the most exciting part of it. And I like what Unlabel is trying to like capture, right, and gobble up as much as we can, is to make these connections, shine a bright spotlight on them, and sort of launch them into the Web3 space. So, I'm super excited, guys.
Yeah, well put, well put. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been practicing.
Definitely. I mean, you're already a few episodes in, so.
Exactly.
He's a pro at it
Exactly.
now.
Yeah.
I don't know about pro, but I'm the biggest fan. Yeah, that helps. But very quickly, can you guys tell me about this particular collaboration? What are you creating together? What's the magic for Unlabel?
So without revealing much, so I got into art because of comic books, and I love how comic books are inked, like before they're colored. So like mangas and like the special artists who are just inking artists. So I wanted to make an artwork which spoke that, like the things that inspired me, a comic book style artwork, and which is animated. So, and I like Gaurav's work, especially because it's a 2D animated, and comic book is a 2D medium. It's a 2D uh, frame. So then I thought, okay, let's create something on those lines and create an illustration which is very comical in its inking style, in its execution, and then get it animated, which is not comic book style at all. So that's where Gaurav comes in. So we decided to work on a concept which revolves around rebirth, birth, and decay of like human interaction and technology together. So and the central element is actually uh, an egg. We can call it an egg, like a special digital egg, which is actually protected by a human skull, which is again further protected by like a science fiction, like really advanced helmet or like a cranium. So,
Right.
so that whole thing is the process of actually revealing itself. It's like the concept that you have is just explosion of that egg, and the opening up of that whole head and to reveal what's inside and how actually uh, mechanical things and organic entities coexist together. So that's where and all done in very comic book style 2D animation, which is like kind of paying homage to old ways of animating, which is not very fine or not very 3D in nature. So that's the concept that we had in mind in a very brief way. So I think Gaurav can also bit more about the flow and the animation that we have in our mind.
Santanu has already pretty much described it as coolly as it is. I don't want to give it away even more, but like when we came together and we started discussing the idea, and he showed me what a rough concept he had prepared already, it immediately clicked because I had a similar idea about life and technology, like camouflage and mixture of uh, life and technology. And both of us have so many influences that we follow, like maybe sci-fi, cyberpunk, even just skull. Like I had a phase in school when I used to only draw skulls. That's it. I used to wear only t-shirts which had skulls. So I feel like because of that, immediately it clicked. And I've been following Santanu's art for many years now. And with his detail, uh, translating that into motion, it's of course a challenge, but I like that about it. I like that I get to animate those lines that Santanu has created and drawn, and that's what I'm very excited about. Exploring the end of things.
Amazing.
Wonderful.
What was your biggest challenge during this process for you, Gaurav? Like, what is the toughest part of creating this one, you think?
Yeah. So the toughest part in general about 2D animation is that it takes a lot of time because every small movement has to be drawn, and it has to be drawn such a way that it shouldn't look like every frame is a different thing. If it's one thing that's moving, it has to be drawn in every frame that it looks the same thing. The volume has to be maintained. The line quality has to be maintained. Every small thing has to be maintained, which in illustration, you can only focus on that one thing and make it as unique as you can. But in animation, you will have to probably do that 100 times to make it move for like 2 seconds or something, or 4 seconds. So then the challenge comes when there are multiple elements. So in animation, whenever an illustrator tries to animate their thing, we always ask them to simplify their design, like make it easier, because not every illustration can be animated. It has to be simplified because not many animators have to animate it if it's in a film or music video and stuff like that. But so in this case, because it's so NFTs in general, my definition or sort of my understanding or way into NFT was when animators started hanging up their animations on the wall like a photo frame, which it's like a moving image, like a Harry Potter thing going on, you know. And that's what is cool for as being an animator, having an animated loop or a moving image as an artwork, seeing it like that. You don't always need, it doesn't have to be on a computer always. It can be in a like a tablet, but still like a photo frame. So now in this scenario, what me and Santanu are creating, it's going to be an image which is going to be moving. So it's not necessarily it's a protected space, and that's where we have to make sure all the story and animation has to be told. That's the story has to be told in that one set of dimension pixels that we are choosing. So that's the thing. Yeah. I don't know if I made it lot.
No, you did. You know, I love this phase actually, where artists describe what they're trying to build, and everybody that listens to it is imagining something very specific in their mind. And then finally the art comes out and collectively everybody's minds are blown. So I love this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And taking a point from what Gaurav said, I mean, this was something that I really wanted to bring out in the discussion. And I think you sort of did allude to it, is I have always felt like since the NFT space boomed and everything, that animators and motion graphic artists is the segment that is going to benefit the most out of it, because up until now, for you, the industry was the buyer of your work. You never had a customer base that was an individual or a family or someone like that. But now you guys have the opportunity to, like a photographer, like a designer, like a fashion designer, to sell a commodity to a consumer directly, and they can also put it up. So
Definitely.
how does that impact your approach to, say, some work that you're doing or a passion project that you're taking out? How does that alter how you approach it now as opposed to, say, pre-NFT?
It's really cool because the fact is NFT can be anything, right? Like Santanu has already done it. The way he entered, he collaborated with a friend of his who is a musician, and they sort of brought their art, both of their medium of art together, and they sold it as a piece to a person. Snoop Dogg is doing same thing. Many rappers are doing same things where they're creating. And the thing is, visuals have always been so close to music. Since the visual medium, like music videos have existed, album arts have existed, and now that they exist as a digital thing, even for an animator, music was maybe something we get to touch with a music video. But now we get to translate all of that into a single frame, though technically it's a lot of frames, but just to say like a single scope, like a frame, let's call it that. So my approach immediately changes, because now I don't have to be bringing a lot of team together and making a short film about everything, or making it can be an illustration, it can be a stationary object which still tells a story with its motion, or with how it expresses. Immediately the approach also changes, which I can get into technicality a lot, but you just start thinking how as a solo artist, how can you use your powers and what you know to
Right.
make that art still feel something that people would love to buy or someone would love to collect, So immediately you start thinking about what your buyer wants. You can focus on that one person and animate for that person. Otherwise, animation is such a team effort. There are directors, art directors, character designers, animators, background artists. There's so many people, and all are collaborating to make a final, maybe one episode or a feature film. But in this space, we take role of that one person and try to put our powers in the place within our capacity and try to make something that this one person wants, because we don't have to worry about is this age group gonna like this TV series, or is this age group gonna love our feature film? It's gonna be about, is this musician vibe with it, or this whoever's gonna purchase it, do they like it? Because it's gonna be in their room, it's gonna be in their house, it's gonna be their own personal property. So we don't in general, your design approach changes with
So
in a way,
have more freedom of expressing what you want to say and what you want to say without being judged or without anyone just saying, okay, I don't want this. It's not control, basically. It's
exactly.
Should be.
It's
not affected by anyone else's perspective other than yours.
So in a way, Gaurav, you could agree that the fact that now you are not restricted, but in a way you could say the fact that now you're restricted to a frame has helped open other opportunities by sort of culling the need for a diverse team, because now it's a direct one-on-one interaction.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it has always been a frame for us. We always watch things on screen. That's our frame. So I can still play in a square, a full short film, but that's not it. The approach is more towards the audience that is a more funnel down audience.
It's brought in more specificity in a way rather than being a bit more broad spectrum.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Rahul, any other questions you think before we wrap up? That was a killer question.
Sure. I mean, I had a few, but given that we're a bit short on time, I'll ask something for Shantanu. So, Shantanu, as we all know, the Divine Portrait was the start of it all with Divine. So I think there are about 5 or 6 different variants of that one artwork, wherein the change is just the color of the halo behind Divine's head, right? So would you say, and this is the multiple versions of one artwork is something that we have seen as a somewhat of a trend in the NFT space, where it's either the textures or the background or the colors of the artwork changing, but the general subject and the concept, the borders, the outlines stay the same. So would you say that this is more so because it allows more people to get unique copies of the same thing? Or is it just to provide a variety based on preferences and choices that people might have? Or is it a mix of both?
I think it's a mix of both. And it's a personal call. Like for me, it was the concept which was behind the variations in the colors. Because that whole album, the collaboration with Divine was about his album called Punya Pap. So in that Punya Pap, I thought that I'll bring in the 7 sins. So the concept was the variations were born out of a concept. It was not the other way around. It was not like, okay, I want to make variations so more people can collect it, so that more people can or it's easier for me to actually just change a color here and there and I can sell more. No, it was born out of a concept of portraying each sin with a different color or different tonality. And at the same time, because I do really detailed work, if you look at most of the other artworks, either they're generative or they're like only few traits which keep on changing, or it's a very simple, basic 2D illustration. There's not details to it. It's a whole different, falls more like a graphic designing thing than art. And that's what's happening with most of the NFT, right?
Right.
Like a digital graphic representation rather than actually an artwork. Most of the projects. For me, I created on one unique detailed art piece. And also for me to create 7 others or maybe 100 others of those detailed pieces would take a whole year to do that. So it's
Exactly.
a mix of those both things together. And at the same time, I have not priced those NFTs at such a high price that each of them will be like around few ETHs or anything. I've set one set price for the artwork, which I divided into 7 parts. I didn't like 7 different artworks, 7 different prices, like all high price. No, I took one high price for one artwork and I divided it into 7 parts. And so that people can collect it. Now that's so that people can be an active contributor and and they'll also not be intimidated by it. I did the same thing with the Ritviz collaboration. I put a very decent amount which anybody can collect, or any fan would go and buy a merchandise or something of what they like about Ritviz or me. They can go and collect that as an NFT. So the whole idea with my NFTs, most of my NFTs and collaborations, is actually to introduce people and help them collect. Because I am a collector. I like to collect things. And the moment I see like a very high price on something, I don't like to collect. I won't buy it. I don't want to buy it, even though I can buy it, but I won't buy it. I need to be really, really, really like a big fan of that piece or that art piece.
Yeah.
Right now, we're not at that stage where people are like big collectors or like really, really into crypto and they own a lot of cryptocurrency. They'll go and buy stuff like straight up, like buying art pieces from a gallery, because it's still we have a long way to reach there. And the only way to reach there is actually to encourage and to actually create more awareness. And the way to do that is actually give them, like, go buy. I'm not giving it for free. You need to be part of the process. You need to understand how transactions work. And the way to do it is not to have fear or be intimidated by it. Like, have an open-minded approach to it. So that's the idea behind making 7 different variations, pricing it at a very decent rate so that people can collect it. At the same time, keeping it quite open to everyone. Like, there was an auction system, but then the starting price point were not that high. But then I'm really glad for the first one and the second one. And then right now, I think there's only 1 or 2 of them left, and the rest.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point that you brought up about taking taking one artwork and breaking the price of it down to enable more accessibility. I think that's something that a lot of artists can learn, that if you're even in the physical world, like if you're making a large collective painting or a series and you've got 6 of them, instead of trying to charge 1 lakh for each piece, you maybe, break it down and make it more accessible, so that maybe in the longer run, you can make more money as more people buy your artwork, but at least get someone's foot into the door into collecting or taking it beyond just, oh, I appreciate this work, but I'm not going to put my money where it is. So I think that's a wonderful point you brought up. That I did not know about that, and I'm really glad that you did that, because it makes so much sense.
Like, see, for me, NFTs are like an additional form of like income.
Or
Not the only form. So I can afford.
Yeah, it's a complementary thing rather than being a supplementary thing. I think
to other artists, it might be the only source of income and they might charge it differently. But I see it as it's an additional thing. And why don't I actually help the community instead of making it something more than that? So I can just use this to build the community, even build the industry in a nice way, in a better way, so that everyone is involved. So everyone benefits from it.
Right. That's wonderful. That's what the whole idea of being inclusive is, I guess. And it's good to see people implement it, because that's something that is a big gap in the art industry.
Yeah, that's a big differentiator in the NFT space also. The beauty is that all of these models are possible. And speaking of art being a source of income, the NFT space has the largest concentration of full-time artists than any other place on the planet, right? Because of the fact that they're all in the same space. It's not internet artists, it's not artists in India or a particular country. The NFT space has the largest concentration, and funnily enough, a lot of them it happened to them during the pandemic. I personally know of, at least 10 really great artists now who have been doing this full time because they lost their primary source of income to COVID. One example is Metageist, for instance. He's a VR
Metaverse, yeah.
artist. Yeah, so he lost his job during the pandemic, and he decided, I'm going to jump into this, and it happened. So, well, with that happy note, guys, we are at the top of the hour now. We've hit the time. This has been an incredible discussion. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you
The
for having
unlabel,
us.
no, of course, the unlabeled artworks, including the ones that Gaurav and Shantanu are working on, will drop in August. So stay tuned for that. But keep coming back every week. We're going to shoot the wind, discuss art and a bunch of other things with these artists. As I leave, one very quick question, completely non-art related, but this, I was curious when you spoke about comics, right? Very quick, rapid fire thing. What is your your favorite comic book? The thing that inspires your art? All of you, Rahul,
I can show.
Shantanu, and Gaurav. Oh, you can show. Awesome. Okay.
I don't have one actually, so I don't have an
Or
answer for that.
game, something from pop culture.
So, as a kid, I used to read all sorts of comic books. Like there was Raj Comics, Diamond, Phantom, and all. But then I really got into like art, inking, like and comic book illustration was Spawn. So,
Spawn.
Okay.
Image Comics. So we had a store back home where they sold like second-hand comic books or hand-me-downs books. It's just like a recycle place where you go and buy old books and which people have just given away. And I don't know how the hell this guy's got Image Comics in bloody Assam. It just was so random. It blew my mind. I've never seen such detailed illustrations in a comic book. Like I was only reading like even DC comics or Marvel comics. It was not as well illustrated and detailed as Image Comics. Like the art they have were incredible. The covers that they made were incredible. So like for example, this is comic book cover. I mean, look at the
nice.
Yeah.
Detailing.
So this is how I got into art. Like it's because of Image Comics and really, really gory stuff. And there was no supervision because like, comic books is a kids. Like what will be violence, nudity, a lot of gore. Really, really got me into art.
It's what they said about video games and everything else too.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean,
Rahul, what's your favorite video game since you're not a comic book buff?
See, right now I play a lot of NBA because like I used to play basketball. I was a swimmer as well, but over time, like once you go to college, you don't have time to play sports because college gets over late and then you're dead tired and can't do other stuff. So because I don't have access to playing basketball, that's where I spend a lot of my time. Like in my free time, I'm playing NBA 2K. But apart from that, I actually also play battleships quite a bit because I remember playing battleships with my mom. And before Bonvita became a thing, Milo was the shit. And with Milo, used to get like cricket bats, tennis rackets, and used to also get free battleship game, which used to stack on top of each other. So I at least had 3 or 4 of those battleship games, and a lot of years were spent, playing that. So seeing Battleship being converted into a 3D strategy game and playing it online with people all around the world, I think that's a fun way. And instead of having to go with numbers, you actually control the ships and the fleet, and you're blowing stuff up. But if it comes to my art, when it comes to landscape work, for me, the one thing that defines whether or not I'm going to make an image at a particular place is what I call sensory overload. So I'm always looking for activating at least 4 senses. It's either, you get so excited because you're seeing something so unique, and then there's this cool breeze on your face, and then there's some sound happening because of the critters or just the wind. So it's about analyzing and connecting with that moment in that space And based on what that connection was it the sound, was it the texture, the light, that is what dictates what that particular scene means to me, and that's how I end up making my work. So you won't see me generally like taking a lot of images. I'll be taking fewer images, but I'll try and nail them more than just waste time taking extra shots.
Amazing. Yeah, it's like so what you take eventually, when you look at it, it's like a synesthetic experience almost. So you're not
In a
just
way,
looking
yes.
at the image, it's you're tasting it, you're hearing it because of
that's how
the sensory overload. That's
yeah,
cool.
that's how I feel landscapes. Like,
That's
if
nice.
any one of you are ever to join me on a road trip, I mean, I'll be hanging out of my car while driving because I'm so excited by a ridgeline. Everybody's like, get back in the car, you'll crash it. But yeah, I mean, it's just a very childish excitement that I get from it.
Nice. Awesome, man. I volunteer to drive next time. If you take me on the road trip.
Won't be as much fun, I guess.
Great.
What about you, Gaurav?
So it's sort of similar story like Santanu said, but like sadly, in my hometown there was no proper shop for comic books. There was a newspaper tailor who randomly used to get some comics, and if we asked, like my mom asked, he would give. So I think it started with Spider-Man comics, and I think that's where I fell in love with that character particularly, and that was the same time when the live action Tobey Maguire Sam Raimi movie also released. And that's when I started drawing. And I think in general, his like Spider-Man's anatomy, like being a lean but muscular and such a weirdly flexible guy, I fell in love with the human body and anatomy and the forms and shapes. And I think side by side, I always was like cartoons were a thing. I would religiously watch those things, and we grew up with amazing cartoons back in our time when there was Toonami and Disney XD, and there was Animax also at the time. So in general, all of these things, seeing what I love in like a human body form, seeing that moving animated, like watching Disney Stars and something, like I think I've always loved that form and motion. And I think my like that joining section was that like taking it from the comics, like illustrations, and then taking it to animation. And I think that's where it all started happening in my head, where I decided I want to do this. I started drawing. That's I think. And I remember back then on the Top Ramen pack, there used to be one DC Justice League comic free. And even though I hated Top Ramen, I was a Maggie person. I used to buy Top Ramen just to get that small comic. So I can read.
Yeah, exactly. It used to be.
The invasion. The first Justice League they got it there with the invasion. This one, I forgot that whole arc. Like every Justice League starts with the alien invasion. So
right.
Used to give the Top Ramen. I still remember.
I'll say there was another amazing comic. There were a bunch of Indian comics that I never found actually published. There was this comic about cricket, which used to come with a particular newspaper in Maharashtra, and very well illustrated stuff. I still have them in there somewhere, like deep in the plastic. I forgot the name. It was about one like fast-paced bowler who sort of makes it into Indian cricket team, and I used to wait when that newspaper would come and I will get that comic, like on a newsprint, very cheap production, but like good comic. And then there was G-Man, which Parley G started creating, and I was a fan of G-Man. So these are the few things I remember, but I was very happy with how they drew effects in
nicely done.
A lot of childhood. Like this is
I think all of us have some good artists back then who were dedicated and did their shit well enough, who impacted us, and hopefully we can have the same impact going forward.
I'm sure you guys will. This was super fun, guys. Very quickly, my favorite comics, the ones that inspired me to write, were The Sandman by Neil Gaiman, Transmetropolitan by Warren Ellis, and there's this book, Hala Hala, Legends of Hala Hala by Apu Pen.
Legends. Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so I'm just going to drop it there. If I start talking about it, it'll take another 40 minutes, but this I just want to leave you with that image. again,
Perfect.
thank you so much. And with that, we come to a close of week 3 of Unlabel by EDAO. Thank you so much, guys. This was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. Great time. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye, guys.
Bye.
Stand by, guys, for latency.